Picture the warm plate that could quietly rebuild the muscle in your arms and legs, sitting on your kitchen table tomorrow morning. You can smell it already. 2 eggs softly scrambled, still steaming. A small bowl of oats with a swirl of milk. A spoonful of thick yogurt with a few berries on top. It looks like an ordinary breakfast, the kind your mother might have made. And yet, eaten the right way and in the right amount, that simple plate can do something most people over 70 are paying a small fortune to chase in a plastic tub of protein powder. It can cross what scientists call the muscle-building threshold, the exact point where your body finally switches on the machinery that repairs and rebuilds muscle. And it can do it for pennies, with food you can buy at any grocery store. I am Dr. Grace Carter. For more than 17 years, I have worked in clinical nutrition and internal medicine, sitting with older men and women who told me the same quiet, frightening thing. They felt themselves getting weaker. The grocery bag felt heavier. Standing up from a low chair took 2 tries, and so many of them had been talked into buying expensive protein powders and shakes, thinking that was the only answer. So if you have ever stood in a store, staring at a wall of overpriced tubs, wondering if you really need them, I want you to relax and stay with me. Because the truth is far simpler, far cheaper, and it is probably already in your refrigerator. If honest, plain-spoken health information is useful to you, take 1 quick second to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. It is free, it takes a moment, and it helps me reach more seniors who deserve to hear this. Now let me tell you why your morning plate matters more than almost any other meal of the day. Let me tell you about a patient. I will call her Eleanor. She was 73 when she first came to see me, and she was discouraged. She had fallen twice that year, nothing broken, thank goodness, but enough to shake her confidence. Her daughter had bought her 3 large tubs of a fancy protein powder, and Eleanor hated them. They upset her stomach, they tasted chalky, and they sat unopened in her pantry, while she felt guilty every time she walked past them. When I asked Eleanor what she ate for breakfast, she told me, honestly, a piece of toast and a cup of tea, maybe a little jam, and right there in that one sentence was the whole problem. Eleanor was starting almost every single day with a meal that gave her body almost nothing to rebuild muscle with. We did not buy anything new. We simply rebuilt her breakfast plate. Within a couple of months, she told me she was getting out of her chair without thinking about it, and she had carried her own groceries up the porch steps for the first time in a year. That is what this is about, not a powder, a plate. So let us talk about what is really happening inside an aging body, because once you understand it, the whole thing becomes simple. As we get older, our muscle does not just sit there quietly the way it did when we were young. After about the age of 60, and even more so after 70, the body begins to lose muscle a little faster than it builds it. Doctors have a name for this slow loss of muscle. We call it sarcopenia. It is one of the main reasons older people lose their strength, their balance, and eventually their independence. It is why a fall can be so dangerous, and why getting up from the floor becomes a worry. But here is the part most people are never told. Muscle loss is not a one-way street. Your body is still perfectly capable of building muscle at 70, at 80, even beyond. It simply needs the right signal, delivered at the right time, in the right amount. There is one more thing about the morning that makes breakfast so important, and I want you to picture it clearly. All through the night, while you sleep, you are fasting. You are not eating for 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours. And during that long stretch, your body still needs amino acids to keep itself running, so it quietly borrows them from your own muscle. It breaks a little muscle down to keep the lights on overnight. This is completely normal, and in a young body it is easily repaired the next day. But in an older body, that overnight borrowing adds up if you never pay it back. Breakfast is the moment you pay it back. It is your first and best chance to stop the borrowing and start rebuilding. Skip the protein at breakfast, and you let the overnight loss stand hour after hour until dinner. That is a long time for your muscle to wait for help. And that signal to rebuild comes from protein, more precisely from one special building block inside protein. Let me explain it with a picture you will remember. Imagine your muscle is like a small workshop, and inside that workshop is a master switch on the wall. When the switch is off, the workshop is quiet. No building is happening. To rebuild and repair muscle, you have to flip that switch to the on position. Now the switch is not flipped by just any food. It is flipped by protein, and especially by one particular building block found in protein called leucine. Leucine is one of the amino acids, the small pieces that protein is made of, and it acts like the hand that reaches up and flips the switch. When enough leucine arrives in your blood at one time, the switch flips on, the workshop comes alive, and your body starts building muscle. Scientists even call this the leucine trigger. Now here is the catch, and this is the heart of everything I want you to understand today. When we are young, it takes only a small amount of protein to flip that switch. A young man can eat almost anything, and his muscle responds eagerly. But as we age, something changes. The switch gets stiff. It takes a firmer push to move it. Researchers call this anabolic resistance, which is just a fancy way of saying that an older body needs more protein at one sitting to get the same muscle-building response a younger body would get from a little. A small breakfast that would have built muscle at 30 does almost nothing at 75. The switch simply does not move. So how much do you actually need to flip that stubborn switch? This is where the science gives us a real useful answer. International guidelines and a clear body of research now point to roughly 25 to 30 grams of good quality protein at a single meal, carrying about 3 grams of leucine as the amount an older adult needs to firmly switch on muscle building. Below that, the switch tends to stay off. At or above it, the workshop comes alive. And the meal where most older people fall, the furthest short of that number, is breakfast. Think about a typical morning. Toast and jam, a bowl of sugary cereal, a pastry and coffee, a piece of fruit on the run. Every one of those breakfasts has almost no protein in it. So your body wakes up after a long night of fasting, when it has been quietly breaking down a little muscle for fuel, and instead of getting the strong signal it needs to rebuild, it gets almost nothing. The switch stays off all morning. And for many seniors, the first real protein of the day does not arrive until dinner. That means your muscle workshop sat dark and closed for most of the day, every single day, for years. No wonder strength slips away. Now you can see why that warm breakfast plate matters so much. Breakfast is your first chance, after the longest fast of your day, to flip the muscle switch back on. Get it right, and you have set the tone for everything that follows. So let me show you exactly how to build that plate and why it beats the powder. The idea is simple. We are going to combine a few humble, inexpensive whole foods so that together they reach that 25 to 30 grams of protein with enough leucine to cross the threshold. No single food has to do all the work. They team up. Let me give you the plate I built with Eleanor, the one I give to most of my patients. Start with eggs. 2 whole eggs are a wonderful foundation because egg protein is one of the highest quality proteins there is, and eggs are rich in leucine, the very building block that flips the switch. 2 eggs give you a strong start. Scramble them, boil them, poach them, however you like. Next, add a serving of dairy. This is where so many seniors are missing an easy opportunity. A cup of milk, or even better, a generous scoop of plain Greek yogurt or a few spoonfuls of cottage cheese adds a meaningful amount of protein right on top of the eggs. Dairy is also rich in leucine, and it costs very little. If you have your oats with milk instead of water, you are quietly adding protein to a food most people think of as only a carbohydrate. Then comes the oats, or another whole grain. Now, oats are not a high-protein food on their own, but they do carry a surprising little bit of protein, and more importantly, they give you steady energy, fiber for your heart and your digestion, and they make the meal filling and satisfying. Cook them in that milk we just talked about, and they pull double duty. And finally, a small handful of fruit, berries, a sliced banana, half an orange. The fruit is not there for protein. It is there for the vitamins, the fiber, and frankly because it makes the whole plate something you will actually look forward to eating every morning. A breakfast you enjoy is a breakfast you will keep. Put it all together. 2 eggs, a serving of dairy, a bowl of oats cooked in milk, and a little fruit. That ordinary-looking plate quietly stacks up to right around that 25 to 30 grams of protein, with plenty of leucine, all from food you already know and trust. You have just flipped the switch, and it cost you a fraction of what a tub of powder costs. Now let me be fair about protein powder, because I am not here to scare you away from it. Protein powder is not bad. For someone who truly cannot eat enough, or who has a poor appetite, a scoop in some milk can be genuinely helpful, and I do recommend it for certain patients. But here is the honest truth. For most healthy older adults, that expensive tub is doing the same job your eggs and yogurt and milk already do, only it costs many times more, month after month, year after year. The whole foods on your plate also bring along things the powder does not: the vitamins, the minerals, the healthy fats, the fiber, all working together the way nature intended. So if you can build the plate almost always wins, for your wallet and for your health. Let me put the cost in plain terms, because I think it matters when you are living on a fixed income. A good tub of protein powder is something you buy again and again, month after month. It runs out, and you replace it. And over a year, that becomes real money out of your pocket. Now think about the breakfast plate. Eggs are one of the least expensive sources of high-quality protein on the shelf. A carton of milk, a tub of plain yogurt, a bag of oats. These are humble, everyday staples that cost very little and stretch across many mornings. Dollar for dollar, the protein you get from these whole foods is among the most affordable there is, and it comes with everything else the food naturally carries. When I sat down with Eleanor and added it up, she realized she had been about to spend on powder what would have bought her weeks of real breakfasts. She never bought another tub. The plate did everything the powder promised, and her stomach was glad to be rid of the chalky shakes. I also want to gently correct a fear I hear often. Some of my patients worry that eggs will harm their heart or their cholesterol, so they avoid them entirely. For most healthy older adults, an egg or two at breakfast fits comfortably within a heart-friendly diet, and the research over the last decade has been reassuring on this point. Of course, if your own doctor has given you specific guidance about eggs or cholesterol, follow their advice for your body. But please do not let an old worry rob you of one of the simplest, cheapest, most powerful muscle foods you can put on your plate. Now let me warn you about the common mistakes I see, so you can avoid them. The first mistake is leaning on the carbohydrate and skipping the protein. Toast alone, cereal alone, a muffin alone. These fill your stomach, but leave that muscle switch untouched. Always anchor your breakfast with a real protein, the eggs and the dairy. The second mistake is making the portion too small. Remember, the older body needs a firm push, not a gentle tap. One single egg and a sip of milk will not get you there. You need to reach that 25 to 30 gram target. So do not be shy. 2 eggs, a full serving of dairy. That is the firm push the switch needs. The third mistake is saving all your protein for dinner. I see this constantly. A tiny breakfast, a light lunch, and then a big plate of meat at night. The problem is that your body can only use so much protein for muscle building at one sitting. Loading it all into dinner wastes much of it. It is far better to spread your protein across the day, and that starts with a strong breakfast. 3 meals that each cross the threshold will do far more for your muscle than one big meal that does. The fourth mistake is thinking you must do this perfectly or not at all. You do not. If eggs do not agree with you, lean harder on the dairy. If you do not care for yogurt, use milk and cottage cheese. The plate is flexible. The goal is simply to reach that protein target with foods you enjoy. Now I promised you honesty, so we must talk about safety, because this is important, and it applies to some of you. Protein is wonderful for muscle, but it is filtered by your kidneys. For the vast majority of older adults, a breakfast like this is perfectly safe and exactly what the body needs. But if you have kidney disease or reduced kidney function, your doctor may want you on a specific controlled amount of protein, and a higher protein plan may not be right for you. So if you have any kidney condition, please do not simply add a lot of protein on your own. Talk with your own doctor or a registered dietitian first, and let them guide the right amount for your body. The same is true if you are on dialysis or if you have been told to limit protein for any reason. This is a conversation to have with the person who knows your medical history. Please never make a big change to your diet without checking with them first. For everyone else, a balanced, whole food breakfast like this is about as safe and sensible as eating gets. Let me give you the one simple trick that turns this from a good idea into a lasting habit. Attach it to something you already do every single morning. You already make your coffee or your tea, so let the kettle be your signal. While the water heats, you start the eggs. The habit rides along on a routine you already have, so you do not have to remember anything new. And here is a small tip that makes mornings easier. Boil half a dozen eggs on Sunday and keep them in the refrigerator. Then even on a slow, tired morning, a strong protein breakfast is only a peel away. And here is a bonus that stacks right on top of the plate. After you eat, once you are up and moving, try a few gentle minutes on your feet. A short, easy walk to the mailbox and back, or simply pottering about the kitchen tidying up. Light movement after a protein-rich meal helps your muscles take up the building blocks you just gave them, almost like opening the workshop door a little wider once the switch is on. You do not need a gym. You do not need to break a sweat. You just need to move a little while your body is busy rebuilding. The plate provides the materials, and the gentle movement helps put them to work. So let me bring it all together for you. After 70, your body loses muscle a little faster than it builds it, and the main reason is that the muscle building switch has grown stiff with age. To flip it, you need a firm push, roughly 25 to 30 grams of good protein at one meal, with enough leucine to pull the trigger. And the single best place to start is breakfast, the meal where most seniors get almost no protein at all. You do not need an expensive powder to get there. You need a plate, 2 eggs, a serving of dairy like milk, yogurt, or cottage cheese, a bowl of oats cooked in milk, and a little fruit. That humble plate crosses the threshold, flips the switch, and rebuilds muscle for a small fraction of the cost of what is sold in those tubs. Eleanor proved it to me, carrying her own groceries up her own steps again, and I have watched it happen for so many others. The strength to rise from a chair, to climb the stairs, to live in your own home on your own terms, so much of it begins on a single morning plate. It is not magic. It is simply giving your body the signal it has been waiting for, first thing in the day, every day. If this was helpful to you, and you would like more honest, simple explanations like this one, please subscribe and stay with us here. This channel exists to help you stay strong, steady, and independent well past 70, and it would be my honor to walk that road alongside you. Take good care of yourself, eat a good breakfast tomorrow, and I will see you in the next one. And one important note before you go. This video is for general educational and informational purposes only, and it is not medical advice. Everybody is different, and your own doctor or registered dietitian knows your health, your kidneys, and your medications. So please speak with them before making any changes to your diet, and let them help you put these ideas to work safely for